Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm a fourth year PhD candidate in History and African American Studies at Yale. And today I'm taking you along for another Dissertation Diaries episode because we have a written sample due at the end of the week to my advisor. And I thought I had all the time in the world, but then came to the realization over the weekend that I'm heading to Paris on Friday. And so I need to get this done by Thursday. And so I thought I had another 24 hours, but I do not. So I'm gonna go ahead and take you along for the wild ride, the essay crisis, if you will, that is going to be the next 72 hours. Buckle up and let's get writing. And now for a quick break to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Skrintol. If you've been watching my videos for any period of time, then you've likely seen how it is that I use mind maps in order to prepare my ideas for essays, for my prospectus, for articles, and basically for any piece of writing that I have going. In order to get to the stage where I can actually begin work, I need to be able to flesh out my ideas and being able to organize them in a visual way. The way that I used to do this was just by grabbing a piece of paper and trying to organize my thoughts. However, oftentimes that is insufficient for actually covering all of the things that I would like to jot down. And the reason I decided to convert to Skrintol is because this infinite canvas setup allows you to continuously add to your ideas and organize them in one place. But you can also separate these things into different projects. And as a historian who works with primary and secondary sources, it can be really challenging to organize where to put all of this different information and how it is that cohesively works into your thesis. So let's talk a little bit about the features that Skrintol offers. Not only do you have these boards where you can set up cards and make connections between all of the different ideas that you might have, but each card also allows you to then add a variety of notes, so that way you're not only just adding keywords and making those connections, but there's also various layers where you can save and store and access information. The second feature is that you can create a variety of projects and save them so that way you can return to them later. Especially as a PhD student, you're working on a project for a very long period of time, and being able to return to projects from various chapters to see how the different ideas are going to connect is just so incredibly useful. The third feature I want to talk about is collaboration, especially if you have a group project. Skrintol can also be used for projects that don't relate to academia whatsoever. With their template feature, they have things for reading notes or for daily planning, and you can also use this for brainstorming. So there are so many different ways to use Skrintol either as a student or in your everyday life. And if you want to go ahead and check out Skrintol for yourself, I have a discount code, which is KaylinGraceApple10, and the link is going to be in the description below, so that way you can test out Skrintol for yourself. I have just found this to be so useful for my workflow this week while I've been working on fellowship applications. I hope that you go ahead and check out Skrintol for yourself. All of the links are going to be in the description below, and let's go on back to the vlog. I have managed to write about 500 words. The goal for today is about 2,000. And although I haven't really earned it, I'm gonna take a reading break because my brain feels a little bit fried. And I am reading House of Earth and Blood. This is the first book in the Crescent City series. This series has a third book coming out at the end of the month. And so I want to finish the first two books in time. And as you can see, it's very thick. And I just need a little bit of a brain break, and normally when I'm feeling a bit fried, I just start scrolling on my phone and trying to break that habit. So we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit of reading, and then I'll get back to work and try to get another couple hundred words on page before I go to the gym, and then more work this evening. I am back from the gym and I'm back at my desk after taking a shower and having some dinner. It is time to get back into working on the dissertation. I have a general structure of the way that I want to plan out my article or essay, and the way that I'm going about it first is writing a general introduction and discussing the kind of historiographical placement of this particular article. And then I'm going to go into a definition of what I am terming partus law, and then looking at the colonies that either enacted partus sequitur ventrum, so matrilineal descent, or partus sequitur patrum, which is paternal descent, looking at how it is that they then consolidated those laws and enacted matrilineal descent across the English Atlantic. And then I also want to discuss briefly why it is that the Caribbean colonies do not enact partus law. And that is the general structure that I'm working with. And so what I'm going to do now is, instead of actually working chronologically on the introduction, because I feel a little bit stumped on that, I'm actually going to go and work on the section about defining partus law. That should hopefully, get the gears running and make it so we have stuff to talk about tomorrow. It's easy for me to write about Virginia, but it is much more difficult for me to write about places like Maryland. So I am going to go essentially back and forth between working on the things that are a little bit easier, which makes it quicker to hit up the page count or the word count, and then shift to sections that are a little bit more challenging and see if that tactic for writing is helpful in any way, shape, or form.
Country lanes and coastal plains, endless views that we're passing through, making our way to a distant place, just us two.
I apologize in advance for the wind. I stayed up late last night working on the dissertation. Didn't write as much as I wanted, but I did feel like I was hitting a bit of a flow with it. I went off to bed, got up this morning. I'm heading into town to go meet up with Elizabeth. We're gonna have a little co-working session. She leaves this weekend, and so I wanted to spend a little bit more time getting to see her before she heads back to Florida. And we're heading over to Cafe Kitsune in Knightsbridge, which is one of my favorite spots in London because it's got really good strawberry matcha. So gonna go get my matcha fix, get some girl time, and hopefully make some progress on the dissertation. And then today is a big old working day. So even though I'm having a little bit of fun hanging out with my friend, the rest of the day is going to be dedicated to writing. Back from my outing with Elizabeth, and it is time to get working on the dissertation. I picked up some tea for a little extra caffeination, not that I need it considering I had not one coffee this morning, but I had a coffee and 2 matchas, and gotta keep things rolling. So I've been working on the abstract, mostly so that way I can refine the language that I'm using, but to be honest, I'm just using it as a procrastination method because I should be working on the section about Virginia. So that's where we're gonna go next and refer back to some of the research that I did at Oxford because a lot of the sources are very similar. The difference is that I also need to look up one of the other court cases from Virginia, and I think it's in Billings' book, which is on my shelf. So I need to grab that and work on that section, and then we need to switch gears and go back to look at the Maryland court records, which might be a little bit more difficult. I've been trying to filter through them and it's been a bit of a tedious process, but I'm gonna go ahead, dive back in, and try to get a solid couple thousand words on paper today, which I think is doable because Virginia is easy for me to talk about. Maryland, on the other hand, is a bit more challenging. It has gotten to the point where when I work at night, I have so much difficulty staring at my screen. And I don't know if any of you use Google Docs for working on your documents, but I find it really difficult that it only has the white background setting. I know that there's extensions that you can use to get like a black setting behind your writing in order to make it a little easier on the eyes, but I just find it frustrating that I have to use an extension to do that. But it's time to put on the blue light glasses. We're making progress. As I showed you, I was using Scrintle in order to map out the exact structure. So I had the mind map where I'm just dumping ideas, and then I have the outline, if you will, for the actual structure of the chapter. And I'm really happy with how it's coming together because the thing I was struggling with before, which is kind of stupid because I've always needed outlines in order to write properly, is that I was struggling to figure out how to get everything to cohesively come together. And again, this is something that I've had to use since I was in community college. I have been using outlines for forever and recently just stopped trying to use them, and I'm just realizing that that's stupid because I need them and they work, and so why don't I use them? I know it doesn't work for everybody, but having a mind map and then putting that into an outline and then moving on to the writing stage just really helps me visualize how all of the different arguments are going to blend, because I was working on the introduction a little bit ago and just kept struggling with how to transition between this introductory paragraph, which is meant to kind of hook the reader, and move on to a general overview of the thesis and then talking about sources and things of that nature. So the message is that, one, I'm frustrated that there is no dark mode on Google Docs, and two, that I need outlines. I have a couple of calls that are scheduled for the Digital Brand Accelerator, so I have to pause this to switch gears and do these calls, and then I'm going to switch back and I'll be working on this dissertation for the rest of the evening. And I am really happy with the progress that I'm making. However, there's still a lot that needs to be done. The general structure of the argument, I have. The problem is that I feel like I have made no progress with the archival materials to say anything that I haven't already said. I just want to give up. Ugh. I think the other problem is that it's for 2 fellowships that I feel like I am not qualified to receive, and this isn't me just being critical of myself. Like, this is me saying, like, the research isn't genuinely far enough ahead to have a written sample worth sending them. Why did I pick such a complicated dissertation? Why do I study history where everything is in an archive that I can't find? I'm just having a moment. I don't want to admit to my advisor that I failed and say, like, I don't have enough to write the written sample. Alright, so as you saw, I had a little bit of a rough night. I was working on the written sample and I just hit a roadblock where I just don't think I have enough source material, enough evidence in order to make the claims or to support the claims that I'm trying to make. And that is partially due to how much archival research I need to do. It just feels like it's a needle in a haystack, and the structure of my dissertation is just so challenging because I'm trying to cover basically the entire British Atlantic, and I think I need to talk to my advisor about how I could possibly narrow that. But the thing is that I do want to incorporate all of the different colonies because they all have such interesting approaches to what I call partis law, so anything that's relating to descent. So matrilineal descent, or in the case of Maryland, paternal descent. The other problem is that these 2 fellowships that I'm supposed to be applying for are, 1, some of the most competitive in the country, and 2, I don't really want them. And it's frustrating to say because I know I should want these things and I should be working towards these things, but both fellowships would require that I move back to the United States, and my heart's just not in it. I just don't want to. And the other thing is that I just don't really feel like my dissertation is at the point where it's competitive enough. It's not far enough along for it to be competitive enough for me to win an award of this kind. And that's not just me being hard on myself, like, that's just fact. It's just not strong enough yet. Instead, what I'm going to do is apply for a variety of smaller fellowships that will allow me to stay in the UK and just focus my energy on those for right now and send it to my advisor and basically say that I've had a change of heart in terms of the plan, and I have a meeting with them next week so I can discuss some of my reservations and where I'm feeling a little bit stuck, and I need to set more time aside for the archive. I made a new plan. I am working on fellowships today and am going to basically pull all of the proposals and things together for my advisor, which feels much more doable. And I also booked an archive trip to go to Kew, so go to the National Archives. And what I'm going to do is actually stay in Richmond for a few days, so that way I can go to the archive a couple of days in a row and just really get focused on the material, because I think part of the problem that I'm running into is I just don't feel like I have enough of a grip on the source material to say enough. The thing with this type of research is it's difficult to know when you should start writing and know if you have enough. And what I'm finding as I'm starting to write is that I don't have enough. Like, I have the argument and I feel like that's pretty strong, and I have the beginnings of the evidence, but I just don't feel like I have enough to really fill out a chapter. I feel like every vlog is like me struggling and then kind of figuring it out and then struggling and then kind of figuring out, but I'm just giving into the idea that that's just how it's going to be. And so I am working on fellowship applications today. I have a ton of them I need to work on. So then Chloe is arriving today and we are heading out for a little weekend trip. So I am going to pull my ideas together using Scrintl again. It's been so useful this week using this app, and I wish I had known about this application so much earlier because I really like it for mind mapping. It's really clear and it's so easy to use. So I'm going to go ahead and use Scrintl to basically draw out all of the different arguments that I'm trying to make, so that way I can hopefully write a more cohesive research proposal, because I have a couple different research proposals, but I want to make them a bit better. So let's go ahead, turn to the computer, and get back to work. It is now several days later and I am joined by Miss Landis. We are heading off to go grab some pastries, and then I have to go back and work on fellowship applications because I have a meeting with my advisor later this week and I have a lot of writing to do on those research proposals. And Miss Landis is heading out into the city to go and
look at some art.
Exactly. So unfortunately I don't get to join today, but that means that I need to get a lot of work done this afternoon so that way I can go and hang out and enjoy the city tomorrow. I have been working on just doing some general life admin today because I was away for the weekend and I came back and just have so many emails and just so much that I need to get sorted out. So it is now the afternoon and I am getting to work on my fellowship applications. So most of them require a research proposal. However, every single one that I'm applying for seems to have a different word length. There's not a standard word length for these. So I am currently going through and trying to consolidate in some of the drafts and then also expand in others. And it's just a little bit challenging, but I am just gonna work my way through these proposals and these abstracts and the cover letter and all of that and try to get the application out to my advisor so that way they can review it and we can have a meeting later in the week. But I'm really glad that I changed my plan and moved away from the written sample because it was just causing me no end of grief. And I am much happier with the plan that I have going forward. And also these fellowship applications I'm actually really excited about and hoping that something comes to fruition. So I'm gonna start the writing group session for Acceptance Society, hang out with my Acceptance Society friends and get some writing done. now reached the end of today's video. It's kind of anticlimactic, but I sent off my fellowship application materials to my advisor and I am feeling quite good about it. There are some things that I'm going to ask for some guidance on. For example, as I am working on these fellowship applications and I'm seeing the prospectus that I've written condensed to a 1,000 or 1,500 word proposal, it's starting to feel quite daunting. And as I'm going through this dissertation process and beginning to write, I am finding that there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. So I have an archive trip booked for next week, and I have a trip to Oxford for more archival work in February. So the Dissertation Diaries is not going anywhere. We've got a lot of work to do. So if you enjoyed this video, the ups and the downs, then go ahead and make sure that you're subscribed. And thank you again to Skrintle for sponsoring today's video. Go ahead and use the discount code KaylinGraceApple10 for a discount on your subscription to Skrintle. This offer only lasts for a couple of weeks, so make sure you take advantage of it right away. I hope that you enjoy using Skrintle for your own workflow. I absolutely love getting to use it this week, and it is now an integral part of my mind mapping practice, and I am just so grateful that you made it to the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends.